Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolf Pit with the very first episode of Foods I Ate as a Kid. That's right, I'm hoping to start a new series starting with this video because I have a lot more to share. Some of these foods might be familiar to you, the people, and some may not. These are simply foods I ate growing up that my father introduced me to. Some of the foods I loved, and some of them I absolutely hated, but there's some that I still eat to this day. So if this is a series you want to see more of, please let me know in the comments and hit the like button. So the first sandwich we're making today is very common to almost everyone, but it's something I ate almost every day when I was a kid. And it requires 2 pieces of white bread, but not just any white bread, Wonder Bread. Sometimes my mom would make it with mayonnaise or mustard, but other times my dad would make it with something special on it, which you'll see later in this video. For this sandwich, mayonnaise or mustard is equally good in my book. So for today's sandwich, let's make it a little bit tangy and use some French's yellow mustard. But you can use whatever mustard you like. But if you choose to use mayonnaise, you must use Duke's. I'm not even going to argue about it. If you don't use Duke's, you're wrong. Once you squirt on as much mustard as you like, spread it out perfectly even on one piece, and then half-ass the other piece. I'm not sure why we took the time to perfectly spread out the mustard on one piece of bread, and then spread the mustard on the other piece of bread, like we just didn't care, to the point it looked like a soiled mattress in a nursing home. Now I'm sure most of you have already guessed what the first sandwich is, a bologna and cheese sandwich. And no, this bologna does not have a first or last name. It's a simple generic all-beef bologna in the deli section of your grocery store. The generic brands will vary from grocery store to grocery store, but to me, they're still a whole lot better than the prepackaged bologna. And then of course, you have to add the obligatory slice of American cheese. Now I actually like bologna and cheese sandwiches, but to be honest with you, I haven't had a bologna and cheese sandwich in years. So now it's time to cut it in half and take a big old bite and see if it brings back any memories from lunchtime in elementary school. When I felt my teeth sink through the soft, fluffy bread, the creamy cheese, the tangy mustard, and the somewhat fatty and spicy bologna, the nostalgia set in for me, and almost a feeling of sadness, because this sandwich reminds me of much simpler times, which I wish we could get back to. There's nothing fancy at all about this bologna and cheese sandwich, other than it being 100% delicious. And you'll know immediately if your sandwich is going to be great when the first bite you take sticks to the roof of your mouth. Now before we make our next sandwich, let's make something even simpler than a bologna and cheese sandwich. And let's make what I used to call when I was a kid, a bologna and cheese clam. Nowadays more commonly known as a bologna and cheese bowl. I'm sure some of you, the people, have had these before, especially if you grew up in the 70s like I did, when household microwaves were first introduced. And boy, they've come a long way since then. Today they're about 1/4 of the size they used to be. We had this exact same model. I always thought it was cool that it said radar range. Or back then, besides calling it cool, we call it neato. So once you have your piece of American cheese placed exactly in the center of the slice of bologna, pop it into the microwave for 35 to 45 seconds. Or, if you want some nice crispy semi-burnt bologna, leave it in for the full minute. And this is one time you don't want to put slits in your bologna to keep it from curling up. You want this bologna to curl up. 45 seconds later, our bologna and cheese clam is ready. And the cheese is like lava. And we used to just eat them plain like this, but you could add all kinds of stuff to this. A fried egg, some onions, some chili, or slap it between 2 pieces of bread. Now we cut a slice out to give it a try, and we unintentionally made it look like Pac-Man. And again, this is something I loved as a kid, but I really haven't had this in a lot of years. And it tasted every bit of what I remember it tasting like. Delicious. Now this bologna and cheese clam is nothing special, but in the 1970s, and you're 8 years old, and you're the only kid on the block that has a microwave, when your friends came over and made these, you were the Hank Hill of your block. Now this next sandwich may be just a little bit weird to some of you, the people. It's a sweet, salty, and savory sandwich. You start off with 2 slices of Wonder Bread, and you put a generous coating of peanut butter on each piece. Then typically the next thing you would add would be some jelly, or some jam, or some fluff, or banana. But we're going to add something even better, a big slice of generic all-beef bologna. This is what I was telling you about earlier, my father's version of a bologna sandwich. And let me tell you, no matter how weird you think it sounds or looks, it is absolutely delicious. You get the sweet, creamy saltiness from the peanut butter, the savory and the spiciness from the bologna, and of course the soft, fresh Wonder Bread. So this is certainly not your average bologna sandwich. This is definitely one of those things I would say don't knock it until you try it. Because once you try it, you're liable to like it. Or maybe even love it. And you may not be able to go back to a typical bologna sandwich again. Now this next sandwich does not use Wonder Bread. We're using dark pumpernickel bread. And this sandwich also goes well with mustard or mayonnaise, just like the bologna and cheese sandwich did. But in this sandwich, I'm using mayonnaise. So slather both sides of the pumpernickel bread with Duke's mayonnaise. And again, if you're not using Duke's mayonnaise, you're wrong. Once your dark pump is liberally smeared, add 3 thick slices of liverwurst. Again, if you never tried it, don't knock it. If you try it and knock it, that's fine. And now add some thinly sliced red onion. I prefer thinly sliced, but my father used to make these sandwiches with slices of onion that were thicker than the liverwurst. Now put the sandwich together, smash it down, cut it in half, and give it a bite. To this day, this sandwich is my favorite sandwich of all time. But it's not a sandwich I would eat every day. It's definitely a sandwich I have to be in the mood for. You have the hearty pumpernickel bread, the sweet bite crispiness from the red onion, the creaminess from the mayonnaise, and the very savory, irony, and somewhat fatty liverwurst. It doesn't need anything more than what's on the sandwich. Now that's just a few of the things I ate as a kid growing up, and some of the things I still eat today. If you, the people, want to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comments and hit that like button. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.